Picture a kid standing in a kitchen, holding a report card, trying to read the weather in a parent's face before saying a word. Not because the grade is bad, maybe it's actually great. But in this house, even good news can be dangerous. If the parent is in the wrong mood, the kid is bragging. If the parent needs attention, the kid's win becomes the parent's win. If the parent feels threatened, the kid learns that shining too brightly comes with a cost. Then that kid grows up. And on paper, they're free. Different house, different job, their own phone, their own money, their own door that locks. But somehow, a tiny committee still lives in their head, reviewing every text message, every facial expression, every awkward pause. They apologize when nobody's mad. They feel guilty for resting. They panic when someone is quiet. They can't always tell whether they want something or whether wanting something is already selfish. That's the part people miss. Being raised by a narcissistic parent doesn't just give you bad memories. It can teach your nervous system a whole weird rulebook for being alive. And adulthood is often when you finally realize you've been following rules nobody else can see. Quick note before we get into it. This isn't about diagnosing every difficult parent. People can be selfish, immature, controlling, or emotionally messy without fitting a clinical label. But when a parent consistently needs admiration, avoids accountability, treats the child like an extension of themselves, and punishes normal independence, the effects can echo for a long time. So why does it hit so deep? Because a child doesn't enter the world asking, "Is my parent emotionally healthy?" A child asks, "What do I need to do to stay loved?" That's the first trap. Kids are meaning-making machines. If a parent explodes, withdraws, mocks, competes, sulks, or makes everything about them, the child usually doesn't think, "Wow, this adult has fragile self-esteem." The child thinks, "I caused this. I should have been quieter, smarter, easier, more impressive, less needy." And that belief is sticky because for a child, blaming yourself can feel safer than seeing the truth. If the problem is you, maybe you can fix it. If the problem is the person you're depending on for safety, food, comfort, rides, permission, and love, that's terrifying. So the kid adapts. They become a mood detective. They learn which footsteps mean trouble. They learn when to disappear and when to perform. They learn that love can feel like a spotlight, warm for a second, then blinding, then gone. Hold on to that image because adulthood often becomes the same kitchen with different furniture. A narcissistic parent tends to turn the child into a mirror. The child's job is to reflect back the parent's importance, goodness, brilliance, suffering, sacrifice, or victimhood. If the mirror gives the right reflection, the parent may be charming, proud, generous, even intense in their affection. If the mirror reflects something inconvenient, like the child's separate needs, anger, talent, boundaries, or truth, the parent may crack down. That creates a strange kind of childhood. You might be praised and erased at the same time. Maybe you're told you're special, but only when your success makes the parent look good. Maybe you're called ungrateful for having feelings. Maybe your privacy is treated like betrayal. Maybe the parent says, "After everything I've done for you," when what they really mean is, "You're not allowed to disappoint the role I assigned you." This is why some adults raised this way are confused about whether their childhood was actually bad. There may have been vacations, gifts, compliments, nice photos, public warmth. But inside the relationship, the child was constantly negotiating for permission to be real. And that leaves a mark. The first adult aftershock is self-doubt. Not normal self-doubt like, did I send that email too fast? More like, am I allowed to trust my own reality? If you grew up with denial, blame shifting, or dramatic rewriting of events, you may have learned that your memory was always on trial. You say, "That hurt me." The parent says, "You're too sensitive." You say, "I didn't like being mocked." They say, "I was joking." You say, "Please don't tell people that private thing." They say, "Wow, now I'm the villain." After enough of that, the question isn't just what happened. The question becomes, am I crazy for thinking something happened? That can follow you into adult relationships. Someone cancels plans and you don't just feel disappointed. You start cross-examining yourself. Am I needy? Am I controlling? Am I overreacting? Should I say nothing? Should I say everything? Should I apologize for having a reaction? The adult brain is trying to solve a problem from childhood. If my feelings got punished before, maybe I should inspect them forever before letting anyone see them. And then comes the second aftershock. Boundaries feel rude. For people with healthy early relationships, a boundary can be simple. I can't come over tonight, Please don't talk to me that way. I need some time. But if you were raised by someone who treated your separateness as an insult, boundaries don't feel simple. They feel like setting off an alarm. The body may react before the mind does. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops. You type a perfectly reasonable message and then edit it until it sounds like an apology wrapped in a gift basket. Because in your old rulebook, other people being unhappy meant danger. So you learn to manage the room. Smooth the conflict, predict the need, give the answer that keeps the peace. This can make you very good at reading people, almost supernaturally good, but it's not magic, it's training. The problem is, a skill built for survival can become exhausting when you use it everywhere. You walk into a meeting and scan for tension. A friend sends a short reply, and your brain opens an investigation. A partner has a bad day, and you wonder what you did wrong. You may call it anxiety, but sometimes it's an old alarm system doing its job too well. Now, a lot of people assume the main damage is low confidence. And yes, that can happen. But there's a twist. Some adults raised by narcissistic parents become wildly competent. They can achieve, organize, perform, fix, read the room, anticipate problems, and look calm while doing way too much. From the outside, they may seem confident. Inside, it can feel like they're constantly auditioning for the right to take up space. That's the third aftershock. Achievement becomes armor. If praise was conditional, success can feel like oxygen. Good grades, career wins, being useful, being impressive, being the dependable friend, the funny one, the low-maintenance one. The role changes, but the bargain stays the same. If I'm valuable enough, maybe I won't be abandoned, criticized, or replaced. The cruel part is that achievement doesn't fully solve it. You get the promotion, and for a minute the inner alarm quiets. Then it asks, what next? You make everyone happy, and it asks, how long can you keep that up? You rest, and it whispers, you're falling behind. It's like trying to fill a sink while the drain is open. And if you fail? Even a small failure can feel enormous. Not because you're dramatic, but because mistakes used to be treated as evidence against your worth. A missed deadline, a messy kitchen, an awkward comment, and suddenly the body remembers humiliation before the mind has a chance to be reasonable. This is where perfectionism often comes from, not from loving excellence, from fearing exposure. Then relationships get complicated, because the nervous system tends to mistake familiar for safe. That's a big one. Familiar and safe are not the same thing. If love in childhood came with tension, unpredictability, guilt, or performance, calm love can feel suspicious at first. A steady person might seem boring. A respectful person might feel hard to read because they're not constantly flooding the room with drama. Meanwhile, someone inconsistent can feel magnetic, not because they're good for you, but because your system recognizes the chase. You may find yourself drawn to people who need rescuing, people who take more than they give, or people who make you prove yourself. Or you may swing the other way and avoid closeness altogether, because needing anyone feels like handing them a weapon. Neither response means you're broken. It means your attachment map was drawn in a house where love had strings attached. And this is where the story gets more personal. Because the adult child of a narcissist often doesn't just struggle with other people. They struggle with themselves when nobody is watching. Ask a simple question. What do you want? For some people, the answer is weirdly hard. Not because they have no personality, but because wanting was risky. Wanting the wrong thing could invite ridicule. Wanting attention could be called selfish. Wanting privacy could be called secretive. Wanting independence could be framed as betrayal. So the child learns to outsource desire. What do they want me to want? What will cause the least conflict? What makes me seem good? As an adult, that can look like indecision, people-pleasing, burnout, or a strange emptiness after finally getting what you thought you were supposed to want. You might build a life that looks correct, then wake up inside it feeling like a guest. That sounds bleak, but this is also where the most important shift begins. The goal isn't to blame your parent forever. Blame can name the source, but it doesn't rebuild the house. The goal is to notice which parts of your adult life are still obeying childhood laws. For example, the law that says someone's disappointment means you've done something wrong. The law that says love must be earned through usefulness. The law that says your needs are dangerous. The law that says peace is more important than truth. Once you can see a law, you can start breaking it on purpose. Not dramatically, usually awkwardly. You say no and feel guilty, then survive. You tell the truth and let someone have their reaction. You make a small choice based on preference instead of approval. You stop explaining every boundary like you're giving testimony in court. At first, healthy behavior can feel wrong. That's one of the strangest parts of healing. Your body may treat peace like danger because danger was familiar. So progress doesn't always feel peaceful in the beginning. Sometimes progress feels like guilt, shakiness, silence, and the urge to run back into the old role. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It may mean you're finally doing something new. There's also grief, and people underestimate that. You don't only grieve what happened, you grieve what didn't happen, the apology that never came, the version of childhood where you were protected instead of managed. The parent you kept hoping would appear if you explained it clearly enough. That grief can be confusing because the parent may still be alive, they may still be charming to others, they may still insist the story is completely different. So the adult child often has to accept a loss that nobody else can see. And accepting it doesn't mean becoming cold. It means stopping the endless audition for a parent who keeps changing the rules. The biggest payoff is this. The wound was relational, so the repair is often relational too. Not only therapy, though therapy can help a lot. Also, friendships where honesty doesn't cause punishment. Partners who don't make you beg for basic respect. Communities where you can be useful without disappearing. Tiny experiences where your nervous system learns, oh, I can have a feeling and still be loved. That's how the Old Rulebook gets revised. Not in one grand revelation, but through repeated evidence. Someone hears no and stays kind. Someone sees you messy and doesn't shame you. Someone celebrates your success without needing to own it. Someone lets your sadness be about you. Over time, the mirror becomes a window. You stop existing only as a reflection of someone else's needs. You start seeing out. So how does being raised by a narcissist affect a person as an adult? It can make them doubt their reality, apologize for their needs, chase approval, fear conflict, confuse intensity with love, and feel responsible for emotions that were never theirs to carry. But it can also make them incredibly perceptive, resilient, and hungry for truth once they realize the old rules were learned, not chosen. And that's the part worth holding on to. Childhood teaches the first language of love, but it doesn't get the final word. You can learn a new language, at first with an accent, at first slowly, but still for real. If this gave you a name for something you felt, but couldn't quite explain, send it to someone who might need that language too. Sometimes the beginning of healing is just hearing, no, you're not imagining it. That rulebook was never yours to keep.